Ryan with King Grizzly, and today what I want to show you is how to make like a full width section where the entire section is clickable, not just the button. So just as a demo here on our site, I added a sort of a test page that I put in, what many of us typically would do for a CTA. So you can see I can't click on this box. I can't, I guess I could make the heading a link if I wanted to, but typically most of us just link a button and that works okay. I mean, it works well, but it would be cool if the whole thing were clickable, right? And in Elementor, yeah, you can click on the section and you can go to style and hover. Like we can actually set a background hover, right? There's different things we can do, but it's still not going to make the thing clickable. Now you can get around that with JavaScript. But is there a non-JavaScript way to do that? So what I want to show you today is how to kind of rebuild this using the CTA widget, which is kind of a good way to work around making a full clickable panel. So if I type CTA, I get the call to action widget. So you can see here we've got sort of like basic widgets and pro widgets, right? So if we kind of look down the list, I've got a Pro widget that's CTA. So you're definitely going to want to pick up Elementor Pro. That's kind of a no-brainer though, because Elementor Pro rocks, and it's like, what, I don't know, $100, $200 for something like you can build 1,000 sites on the same license. So I dragged that CTA panel onto the page. Another way to do that is you can add a new section. I tend to make it just one column. That's definitely what we want to do here. We want to make it full width. I go ahead typically and zero out the margin and the padding for the section. I click on the column, zero that out. A good practice, if you don't know about this, is there's something over here called Navigator. I can turn it off. By right-clicking basically anywhere, you can turn on Navigator. What I like to do, you can double-click these things and label them just to keep yourself organized. Also looks pretty pro to the client. So I'm going to call this sort of like our CTA widget panel, right? So let's see if we can rebuild this glowing sparkle thing, CTA. So I'm going to go ahead and search for that widget one more time, CTA, drag it on there. Whoops, missed. Try again. There we go. Okay, got it. Doesn't look anything like the top. So first thing we need to do, make sure we have the widget selected. For the skin, we're going to go with cover. There we go. Now we have a background image. You can even have some pretty cool animation effects if we want. You can already see we've got the beginnings here of a cool panel. I'm going to go grab that image from my media library. You could upload your own. Let's see here. There it is. Oh, it's a face. I didn't even realize it was a face. It's a sparkly face. So there we go. The height's not quite right. We'll get there, as we change the size of the fonts and stuff. But if we can go to styles and set a min height right away, so I could say I want this thing to be no shorter than whatever, 450 pixels. So let's go back into the content, style up our heading. So actually, I'll just enter the same thing first. So glowing sparkle thing. I'll try not to take too much time. We can just go with the lorem ipsum. You can also set what kind of tag you want. Good for SEO, right? I'm cool with an H2 right now. And then we had to learn more, so you can actually set what the address is. For now, we'll just not link to anything. But what do we want to apply the link on? Just the button? No way, the whole box. Boom, so now the whole box is clickable. And some of you may want to tune out now because you can see where this is going. But let's go ahead and see this all the way through. You can do some cool stuff. You can add a ribbon like sale. Look at that. So I've got a slick little ribbon with this CTA. I can make it on the left, make it on the right. I could style it. I don't need it for this one. Then I just go over to style and I can mess around with how I want this aligned. Because some pictures, it would be nice if the CTA text was down at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and center mine. Let's quickly work on sizing this. So I don't remember how big I made that. I like to use rem sizing because it's relative and it's great for accessibility. It's worth Googling and reading about if you don't know what the rem sizing is, but I'd recommend that over pixel sizing. It allows people to kind of have the font sizes adjust. It's really great for sight impaired people. Okay, so I'll just make my text here a little bigger. You can also set spacing. So I need some more space after my description. There we go. Let's go to my button. Background color, I had some kind of like a pink color. I don't want a border, so I'm just going to zero that out. I would like my font a little bigger. So, or you have these presets. You want to save time, medium, large. Border radius, if you max it out, you get that nice rounded effect. Maybe we'll go with a medium. You can really nuance that with the typography controls here. And then you can set your hover state. So I don't know, let's make this one like a purpley color on the hover. There we go. It's kind of cool. And then hover effects, you can really control what you want to happen when somebody hovers the panel. I'm okay with this. I tend to turn those sorts of things off, but it's pretty cool. So we're kind of there. There's a couple things I would mention. One is the width of this description text. It's going to get really wide and look weird. So if I go over here, and this is even longer. It's just beyond the recommended width for sort of like readable text. Two ways I know of at this moment to get around this. I can click on this widget, and if I go to style, for the box itself, I can set padding. So I may just want to go with percentage padding. So like maybe left, I want to go with 25, right, 25. That's pretty good. That's probably the easiest way to do this, right? Another option we have available to us is we could, if we wanted, write a little bit of CSS. It would look something like this. So what I tend to do is I'll click straight on the widget that I'm going to be adding the CSS to. I mean, I recommend putting it in your child theme, but if you go to the Advanced tab, you can put in custom CSS. I believe this is the class name for the description, so I could actually set a max width, and then it becomes necessary to actually set a left and right auto margin just to keep the text centered. So if I turn off, just as an example, the padding we just set, right? So I'm going to zero that out. You'll see my CSS is working, right? So if I change that width to 100, oh yeah, look at that. So I can really control that. That's probably a more sophisticated way than the padding to do that, but if you don't want to have extra CSS, this is a good way to go about that sort of a change. Also, if you're having trouble reading this text, right, by the default, we can go to, I believe it's hover effects, yep. So let's darken this up a bit. I'll just pick a black. Whoa, that's too dark, right? So then I slide down the opacity till I find sort of a nice balance. Like I can read the text, but I still get to appreciate that person's big, glowing, sparkly nose. The last thing I would mention is, what about this button, right? The color doesn't change when I hover the section. It only does when I hover the button, which personally I'm probably okay with. But if you want a little more CSS, let's go back to our custom CSS. And I can put this, I'll try to put this in the YouTube description. So this is, I'd have to go grab the color value. Right now I had an orange from another project. So whatever that purple value is, you put in here the hex. I'm just going to put purple. If you want to get the exact value, you can go back to style, button, hover, and then I can just copy this out of there, go back to advanced, custom CSS, come back over here and put in that hex value. Oops, I guess I didn't copy and paste it correctly, but it would be, whatever my color was. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Unfortunately, we do need an important tag there to override things. Actually, we may not if it's inline. So now I'm starting to ramble. This transition here just animates the button on hover. No, we did need it. See, the pink doesn't work. If I put important back on, important, there, works. So I'll take this CSS, drop it in the description for anyone who wants to use it, but you can pretty much get away with the padding and then check it out. So now we've got this slick full width CTA, and it doesn't have to be full width. You can use these CTA boxes for all kinds of stuff. And you can get a little more sophisticated with the types of content you can put in them. Like you can have a graphic element, an icon. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool. So I tend to forget about these when I'm building things, but they're really useful, and they make great widgets if you save them as a widget and reuse them. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.